Why can't most people get any loans, any credit cards, no business loans, could barely get a merchant cash advance? Well, there's various different reasons why. If you're talking about personal credit, that's different. If you're talking about business credit, that's different. If you're trying to get corporate loans or corporate credit, that's way different. But for the most part, most people can't qualify for anything because their personal credit is jacked up or it's not built. If your personal credit is not built, there's a few things you have to start focusing on. Number one, completely forget about getting loans and credit cards right now, because you might get some credit cards, but their limits are going to be tiny. So you need to really focus on adding as many accounts as possible right now, and then just letting those accounts age. Sure, you can add authorized users and do all this mumbo jumbo that people are talking about on YouTube, but that's not going to qualify you for the big limits, the big loans with 0% interest and things of that nature. So focus on adding accounts right now so that these accounts can age with your credit report, because the moment you add them, that's the day that they are basically birthed on your credit report and they start aging from that point forward. It's cool to have authorized users, but you need to focus on adding your own primary accounts as well. So add your accounts as quickly as possible so they can start aging with you. And then also focus on adding primary credit cards where you can continuously increase your limit. When you add these kind of accounts, and this could be like a Discover It or even American Express Blue Cash, most people, they're instantly turned off when they hear Discover or the Blue Cash, because they want these travel cards and want the cards with the most cash back, which are cool, but there's no point in getting those cards if you have a $1,000 limit. So the focus needs to be on adding these accounts where you can continuously increase your limit without getting a hard inquiry on your credit. So once you do this, these limits are going to continuously increase with you, and then as your limits are increasing, you know, let's say you got the Discover It and the Amex to 10K or 15K or higher, then now when you have those accounts on your credit, these next banks that are going to look at your report when you apply for them, they're going to look at those accounts and say, all right, cool, you know, he has a 10K card, he has a 15K card, you know, we'll gladly give him 10 or 15K as well, because they're going to match the limit, that the highest limit that you have in your credit report. They're either going to match it or they're going to average out between all your limits across your whole credit report. So focus on adding as many accounts as possible, increase those limits, and you have to be patient with this. It's not an overnight process to get big limit cards, to get 20, 30 cards. You know, it's possible. I have around like 20 cards right now, around like 600K in credit, and everyone thinks that it happened overnight, but I've literally been building my credit since I was 18 years old. Most people, they think that just because I'm 22 right now, you know, it's impossible to get all this credit, but I mean, it just takes time. I definitely could have done it in a short amount of time if I knew all these strategies from the get-go, but I kind of learned along the way through trial and error and paying different mentors and buying a bunch of different programs and doing a whole lot of research. Honestly, the research was probably the biggest key, because most people just don't know what they're talking about. So focus on adding as many accounts as possible, increase your limits, and then if you're looking to get business funding, this is a whole different thing, whole different topic. But your personal credit is still important, but you also want to make sure that everything lines up with your business credit when it comes to how it's formed, all the documents, all the addresses, all the phone numbers, you have a website, you're on the Secretary of State, all this stuff needs to match. You need to dot your I's and cross your T's. So some things that, you know, come to mind is like, for example, if your company is not even registered with the Secretary of State and you're looking to get some big loans or certain credit cards, corporate cards, they're going to check all this stuff, because now you're talking about business credit. They're going to check more rigorously when you're trying to get these type of accounts. For major bank credit cards, for business credit, it's not too important, but it's still important to have all this lined up, because you never know when things can change. Things are frequently changing when it comes to credit and loans and funding and things of this nature. So make sure all of that's lined up. The address on your articles of organization should match the address that's all over the place. Let's say your address has street in it and you put ST one place and you put STREET in another place, and you're just constantly changing it around, then that can come up on certain banks when the underwriting's checking your credit. That can come up and they can be like, all right, you know, maybe this isn't too accurate, maybe we shouldn't do this, and that can literally be a reason for a denial. You can have everything else lined up perfectly, but if these little tedious things are not matching, then that can be a reason why you're not going to get that loan, you're not going to get these credit cards. So all this little stuff with business credit needs to line up. Obviously you want to have some business trade lines added as well. It's not like a must to get the business credit cards. A lot of people don't know this, but as long as your personal credit is really up to par, you can get business credit cards, and they're just going to check your personal credit, which really isn't a big deal. Everyone's kind of obsessed with no PG credit, as if they're just like planning to scam the banks. So unless you're planning to scam the banks, then then stop focusing on getting no PG credit, because just PG the credit, because you're going to pay it back. Hopefully the investment you're going to make is going to get you an ROI. You're going to pay the cards off, and then you're going to continue to build that relationship with the bank. It's 100% not worth it to burn like a major bank like Chase or Amex or Citi, Bank of America. 100% not worth it to burn the bank over 20K or 15K or little tiny amounts. It's not worth it whatsoever. You can continue to build this relationship, continue to get more loans, more funding, more credit cards over and over and over again for new businesses. There's certain strategies where you can get the same card multiple different times. Like for example, the Chase Ink cards or the American Express business card. Any business card really, you can get these accounts multiple different times. You can get the Chase Ink Cash 5 different times. You just got to know the right strategies to do it, and you have to have your profile set up the right way. So hopefully you guys got a little bit of value out of this. Focus on building your personal credit. That is the most important thing, and that'll get you the most funding you can get.